Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, I want to make sure I'm up. Yes, everything is green, good. The world is awesome. So, voting is coming up. One of my subscribers reached out to me. He asked me about the election that's coming up in Virginia. There's going to be a governor election. I have a story that I'm going to do, and I'm going to double back to what I'm about to say, but he asked me for, I guess my opinion or insight on the voting thing. And it's funny, I get on this channel all the time, shake and rattle and scream about the problems in politics, corruption in politics, all that stuff. It feels weird to get asked directly. Now, I'm going to answer it this way. I'm going to read the story. And within the story, it's going to be my answer. In an abstract way, though, there's no way to answer that question. Like, there's no way to answer the question of who should I vote for. It kind of depends on what you want to accomplish. What do you believe will be accomplished by making that particular vote? If you believe anything will be accomplished at all by making that particular vote, which means that your, avenue of action may be different than voting. Kind of depends on your view of the world, what you think is going to take place based upon the person you're trying to put in the office, representative government. And that's even going with the assumption that that representative government is an actual representative government. I don't think we have a representative government. So I'll start a starting point there. I'm going to read the story about the Washington Post. National Democrats are jittery about Virginia's governor's race. You don't say. You don't say. Now, Virginia is an interesting state. I've lived in Virginia the overwhelming majority of my life. I was born and raised here. Born at the main hospital, 605 August 31st, 1977. Now, our politics in Virginia, for the most part, has become more blue, essentially more Democrat. It's an odd state because it's the heart of the Confederacy. At the same token, the state has become more blue, more Democrat. And when I voted for Jill Stein, I saw the vote tally come in, and it was slow. Like, it was one of those things where it was like, holy shit, Hillary Clinton may lose Virginia. That would have been a mind-blowing thing for anybody living in Virginia. It tends to go more blue, at least for the statewide stuff. They're concerned that Trump may take Virginia. Now, McAuliffe was the Republican governor before McAuliffe got in. Jittery, the one that got locked up for taking a bunch of money. I can't think of his name. But that was a Republican governor. There was a Republican governor here for what? 8 years before McAuliffe got in office. So they are concerned that they may lose it. Now, you can make the case that the only reason McAuliffe won was because the other guy was so gross. He was gross. He was immensely gross. I remember that election. That guy was gross. He was attorney general at one point. Man, they're missing their names. Attorney general at one point, and tried to run for the state. The guy was like a religious maniac running for governor of Virginia. Fortunately, the people of Virginia said no. They put in a Clinton stooge, Terry McAuliffe. McAuliffe is leaving. Are the Republicans going to be able to retake Virginia? Democrats are concerned. This is the Washington Post. The Democratic National Committee gathered here over the past week with one worry on every activist's mind. We'd better not lose the Virginia's governor race. Think about that, Democratic activist. That's awesome. It's a surprising case of jitters over a place that hasn't elected a Republican to state-elected office in 8 years, and that voted resoundingly against Donald Trump last year. That was not a resounding victory. I'm sorry, man. Washington Post is being extraordinarily generous. I watched the vote tally come in. I live in Virginia. I sat here with bated breath, wondering whether or not Donald Trump was going to take the state of Virginia. So, as I drive through my area of town, there are Trump signs all over the place. She could have lost Virginia. Resounding is way too strong. Resoundingly against Donald Trump last year, in quotes, resoundingly. But nationally, Democrats haven't won a marquee race since losing the presidency. The Republicans in fundraising, they lag Republicans in fundraising. A loss for Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam against Republican Ed Gillespie on November 7th could stir doubts about message and strategy, just as the party is gearing up nationally for next year's all-important midterm elections. What message? I don't know the message. What's the message? What's the message? I don't know the message. What am I missing? They could stir doubts about message and strategy just as the party is gearing up nationally for the next year's all-important midterm elections. Do you know what the Democratic message is? I don't know what that message is. Message my ass. I don't know what you're talking about. What, we're not Trump? Is that the message? Is that the message? I know they came out with the quote-unquote better jobs thing. I haven't heard anybody pushing the better jobs thing. They may send things saying, give us money, we're going to help with the economy, Trump is horrible, Trump needs to be impeached, Trump is a goddamn goblin. Yeah, I heard that part. I don't know what your messaging is, though. We're ground zero, Susan Swecker, chairman of the Democratic Party of Virginia, said inside Bally's Casino here, where party leaders and activists from all 57 states and territories gathered over the past few days. All eyes are on us. I can understand that, because last year broke my heart. I'm sorry. Let's clear is whether the jitters will help, or whether a Northern victory gives Democrats any kind of roadmap for 2018. Leaders and activists spend a lot of time in Las Vegas talking about Nevada and Virginia, two increasingly urban and diverse states that bucked 2016 Trump's wave, a model for what every state party could achieve if they organized and elevated their activist base. Oh man, you guys are missing the boat, man. I'm sorry, you're wrong. And I'm saying this from somebody. Look, when Obama took office, he swept for the most part. It wasn't even close. If I could be wrong, maybe I should look at the very end of the tally, but I distinctly remember that race being immensely close, where those votes were coming in ticking like by the percentage points, and Hillary Clinton barely held. And I'm calling barely in comparison to what Obama won when he was in Virginia. When he won Virginia, that's all. I know they're saying what you can get when you're organized and everything else. I understand. And maybe they're making a point that, look, it could have been worse. She could have actually lost it, except fair enough. I'm just saying, this idea of these guys held back the night. Yes, they held back the night, but barely. It's not this resounding victory that the Washington Post is making it out to be. They spent less time talking about Trump's winning message on jobs and fairness, or states where it was so effective, or how to win in those places with a sales pitch of their own. From a branding perspective, we have a huge problem, said Ken Martin, the chairman of Minnesota's Democratic Farmer Labor Party. It was the biggest challenge for us in last year, and the biggest mistake was uniting around Stop Trump. Defeat in Virginia could, I like this one. Defeat in Virginia could also prompt another brawl between progressive activists and the party's establishment. Northam, backed by most of Virginia's elected Democrats, won his nomination over Senator Bernie Sanders' backed former Congressman Tom Perriello, a race that some activists saw as a replay of the 2016 Democratic national primaries. Northam's defeat would let activists argue that the party that picked Hillary Clinton over Senator Sanders and Tom Perez over Sanders-backed Keith Ellison for Democratic National Committee chair in February had once again bet against a progressive and lost. It would set the stage for more infighting in 2018. All right, I'm laughing at that part just because they've lost. I don't understand the claim to legitimacy. That's all. I don't understand this claim to legitimacy. How do you lose this much and claim legitimacy? How do you fail to this degree and claim legitimacy? We've lost all throughout the United States. We've lost the House, Senate, Supreme Court. We were supposed to get our pick in the Supreme Court, and we're too weak to do that. Oh, and by the way, we also lost presidency to a reality show host. Over 1,000 seats all throughout the United States. Where's the claim to legitimacy? Are you telling me that this one race will tilt the difference in whether or not the Democratic Party is legitimate? How do you lose 1,000 seats all throughout the country? How do you lose 66 of 99 state legislatures? And you're still claiming yourself to be the adults in the room. I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Ideology aside, most party leaders seem bent on avoiding in Virginia the kind of overconfidence they see settled in 2016, when many Democrats assumed Clinton would win the presidency. That complacency led people to take their foot off the gas, Martin said. We saw a dip in volunteers in the last few weeks. Turnout drop. That can't happen again. You lost 1,100 seats throughout the country. What are you talking about? The complacency, why is there overconfidence? Like, this is what I'm missing. I'm sorry, this is what I'm missing. Where's the overconfidence coming from? That's the part. I don't get that. Where's overconfidence? How do you fail this much and then still have this level of overconfidence? It's like, yes, I'm homeless, but I'm the most fucking overconfident man in the world. How do you do this? How do you do this? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't see where it comes from. I think part of it comes from, I think Republicans are batshit crazy, and because Republicans are batshit crazy, we are the same choice, so of course people are going to vote for us. That's been proven to be wrong. That's wrong. You failed. That's wrong. How on earth do you claim your legitimacy? The argument that the Washington Post made here would let activists argue that party that picked Hillary Clinton over Sanders and Tom Perez over Sanders back Keith Ellison and blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why that logic doesn't follow right now. Why does it take this particular race? Why does it take a loss in Virginia for this particular logic to take place when all throughout the United States, Democrats has lost everything? I don't get it. Why does one race make the difference? I was a millionaire and I lost $1. It's like, come on. Perez went further, rebuking Democrats who believe Virginia is now solidly, safely, permanently blue after years of population growth in the diverse suburbs of Washington. I hear demographics is destiny, and nails on a chalkboard, to me, the DNC chairman said at a session here over the weekend. Demographics is not destiny. Organizing is destiny. That's Tom Perez, by the way. Yeah, that's Tom Perez. There's another point in this that I want to read. It's a long article, so I don't want to read all of it. But an additional challenge as 2018 approaches is keeping the battles inside the party at bay. In Las Vegas, some Democrats remain committed to those battles. For the first 2 days of the 4-day meeting, much of the news coverage focused on a conflict over the list of parties at large membership, which included several lobbyists. You don't say. But for most Democrats, the best way to stave off another round of infighting is to win. Sade Holder, now is not the time for our party to be beholden to ideological litmus tests. We're held together by common interests. Here's my question. Is there a difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? Now, the answer to that question, of course, is yes. If there's a difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, where is that line of demarcation? Where does that line change? Meaning, where does the guy who's a Republican all of a sudden become a Democrat? And I know there's no hard and fast rule. I know this stuff is somewhat of a range, but I'm trying to make a point. Certainly, there are more than a spectrum of two parties. So this conversation that you guys are having of, this is part of our base and all this other stuff, I don't think it applies to certain people that I think you think it applies to. This is not common interests. We are not going for the exact same things. Ultimately, you want a bunch of people to organize around what's essentially a corporatist party, pretending to be a party that's somewhat a leftist party. I'm saying that's bogus. I'm saying that's BS. I'm saying that I understand Republicans are batshit crazy, but that doesn't necessarily give you carte blanche to behave in any way you wish. Now, if you're going to be a leftist party, you need to be a leftist party. Should I support somebody who say they're one thing and they're not that thing? Meaning, if the Democrats are saying you should vote for us because we're not batshit crazy, is that enough of a reason to muster up and give them your vote? I would say no. Your vote is there purely because you want something in return. It is a thing of exchange. I am giving you this vote because I have this belief that you're going to do X, Y, Z in that office. I'm not giving you this vote to hold back the night. Meaning, the vote for Jill Stein or the vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for Donald Trump, those things aren't necessarily there to hold back the night for somebody else. You vote for the person you believe is going to represent your interests. If you're forever voting in this capacity that I am terrified of this other guy, you understand that the person you're voting against, the person who you voted for in order to vote against the other guy, is still going to be doing things in that office. Now, your operative question is, do you believe that the Democratic Party is functioning as an actual left-wing party? Do you believe that party cheated Sanders in the last election? Do you believe that party has had any level of awareness of itself in this way? Meaning, have they continuously lied about the prospect of A, that they cheated, B, not just lied about they cheated, pretended that everybody was united even though they lost $50 million. The entirety of this process has been spent with a certain level of lying and grossness. Do I believe that the cornbread that they're putting in office right now, or that they're trying to put up against the other Republican, the batshit crazy one, do I honestly believe that that Democrat is actually working in my interests? Or do I honestly believe that that Democrat is standing there saying, you have nowhere else to go? You have nowhere else to go. I get sick of this argument of you have nowhere else to go. And the way to deal with the argument of you have nowhere else to go is to say, yes, I do. And you leave. You don't vote for them. You're not, your vote is, this is not a perfunctory exercise. Just because Democrats have found some way to game the system where they can still take huge amounts of cash, act in corporate interests, but hug every black, Mexican, Hispanic, and everybody else that they can find. Well, no, that doesn't work. This idea of using identity politics and pretending as if the economics don't apply, and then calling everybody racist and sexist and bigoted if you don't necessarily vote for the guy who's essentially hugging identity. Identity is an obfuscation. The issue that you need to be talking about is class, not race. And ultimately, the Democratic Party is still focused on this two things. We're the identity party, and we're not the batshit crazy party. We're not going to do anything economically. We're not going to do anything that actually deals with the issues that avail your society. We're going to keep things as status quo. We're essentially going to be a pro-corporatist party, and you have nowhere else to go. Anytime you see a Democrat open up their mouth, that's where they're saying you have nowhere else to go. You have nowhere else to go. These people are batshit crazy. You have nowhere else to go. I'm saying they need to fail. They need to lose until they understand this idea of you have nowhere else to go is not true. If that means that we need to burn together, we need to burn together. That party is in this change or burn. I'm okay with either one at this point. Think of all the issues that avail your society or that are problematic in your society. Think of all the things that are costing your world. Whether you're talking about this global ecological lapse, you're talking about this idea of the carbon that we're pumping into the air, the hurricanes that we're getting based on the things that we ourselves are doing in this planet, be it animal habitation or oil and gas production. Think of the nutrient density of our foods going down. Think of all of the extinction events that have taken place over the last 50 years. This is our behavior. We're existing in a game space and pretending as if this game space is actual reality. This game space is not a reality. This thing is perspective. The people who were putting that office in no way touch the actual issues that deal with the real world. They don't. This guy who they're putting in is purely just there to hold back the night. He's not a real politician. Yes, he's a real politician, but he's not there to, in the traditional sense of this particular person, is there representing the people who he's there for. Yeah, there's a such thing as saying no. Now, I don't say this as, you know, I'm making this point of saying you should say X or you should say Y. I'm just saying, what are the things that are affecting your society? And do you believe that the people who they're putting in this office, particularly, because look, any solution that you're going to get is going to come from the left. Do you believe that the people who they're putting up represent the actual left? Now, if that answer is yes, have at it. If you believe that person who they're putting up is in any way going to deal with the challenges that are going to avail you, your society, your world, then fair enough. I don't have that belief. And not just have that belief, I think they're running contrary to what I believe the world should be. This last comment that woman made, common interest. This is not common interest. That's my point. We're not held together by common interests. Her interest is not my interest. So no, she's not getting my vote. Or that governor is not getting my vote. Can't speak for you. Look, my perspective on this is not the easiest to take, if I'm being honest. Because when you're dealing with this, you have to realize there's immediate real-world consequences for choices like that. My response to this, however, comes from this perspective of, I don't expect anything from Republicans. Any expectation that I have in regards to moving the country in a particular direction comes from the left, meaning the Democrats are supposed to be the philosophical basis of the left. Fair enough. If they are not representing what they're supposed to be, should you reward them for not doing what they're supposed to do? I'm going to give you money for something that you did not do. I have a friend of mine who's in a union, and he was talking about, I was like, why the hell are you supporting Democrats? Don't vote for Republicans, they're fucking insane. But why are you supporting Democrats? You know you can walk. You can balk. You can say, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And he's like, yeah, but Republicans are insane, and they're going to actively go after us. We prefer the apathy of Democrats. Think about that. Labor is at the point where they're saying we prefer the apathy of Democrats. They need to fail. That's my point. They need to fail. The goal of the Democratic Party wasn't supposed to be apathy. It wasn't supposed to be apathy towards labor or towards the poor or anything else. Until they represent the interests that they're supposed to represent, they should fail. They should fail. That's my position. That's my position. PT, I don't know how to pronounce it, Malam. I'll take Jill or Cynthia, but together they would be unstoppable in my opinion. I think you're talking about Cynthia McKenna, I'm not sure. Video game vision quest. Bernie would be too busy campaigning for Kamala Harris to run in 2020. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That is real wrong. What crazy shit can we talk about? The message is, I'm with her, vote for us mofos, pretty much. Democrats are worried Trump is not as unpopular as some polls indicate. Yeah, I don't think he's as unpopular as they think. I don't think he is. Don't get me wrong. I think people think he's gross. I think people think he's over the top. But I think people compare him to the fakeness of the other side. Until you have somebody else who's genuine and earnest and who could actually look, man, it's hard to be a politician or fake politician right now. Yeah, everything's on YouTube, everything's on video. The moment that you say someone one day is going to be cut up in another day. You have people who are in these enclaves who have goals that you're meeting. There's no position that you can take that's going to be a good position. So, fair enough. But Trump has just said so many horrible, gross, and disgusting things. But that's a different conversation on whether or not he's compared against some of his opponents. Super delegates, because we want candidates we can work with. Grr, no more dim enter. Trudy, exactly. Jill was the only candidate that representative. Yeah, same here. Al Franken, lying liar. Ooh. Lying to lying liars that tell them. Yeah, he had a book. That book was awesome, by the way. Al Franken's book. I had high hopes for him in Congress. Trudy, to hell with that. I'm going with the Democratic Socialists. Fucking A. Savage Bernie joke. Vermont Bread Smith. Hi Jamal. How's it going, Vermont Bread Smith? Zox Oxford. No wrong but probable. Not wrong but probable. PDM. Video game vision quest. Oh dear, I'll dump Bernie at that point. Yeah, that'd be a tough one, man. That would hurt. 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 That would totally hurt. Nicole's Riddles. Is there a candidate that you would recommend to a Virginia resident in this governor's race? You know, it's funny. I was talking to my team lead today, and he's a libertarian, and he was like, I can't believe that this is all they have to offer in this race. Yeah, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good at all. I don't know anybody in this race. I mean, the main two people that I've seen in this race were the Republican and the Democrat. I don't know who else was running. David McCall. That's right. Trump is a liar and says shit in shit ways, but he hasn't yet stolen the White House silverware. Fair enough. Oh, pretty mellow. Glad to be with you all, Vermont Bread. Yeah, that would hurt like childbirth. Okay, I missed the top part of that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. when yeah, when I was asked the question, my thought was, it was like, he says, what would be your advice on the governor's race? And again, like I said, it's one thing for me to say, okay, my opinion is XYZ about politics and everything else. But it's always when you get to specifics, it becomes harder when you deal with the specifics. Like, it's one thing to say, and like the argument for revolution, it's like when you're making this glorious argument of, you know, grab your pitchforks and let's run to the post office and all this other stuff, and people are feeling themselves. Somebody gives us awesome military speech and you go kick some ass. Well, that feels good, that sounds good in the abstract, but ultimately what you're talking about is, you know, stabbing people, injuring people. So yeah, one thing sounds good in the abstract, another thing sounds a little bit more difficult in the moment. What I'm getting at here is, the issue is not the individual election. I guess my point would be more so of a long-term trend. What do you want this world to look like? And do you believe that the party apparatus that's there right now gets you there? That's all. That's the only position that I'm taking. Do you believe that the party apparatus, as it stands, gets you to where it needs to be? Do you believe that this world is headed for global collapse? Now, the global collapse thing is not coming just from me. This is from this kind of scientific position of ecological collapse and everything else. Fiscally, economically, the shipping jobs overseas, the automation, none of these things are dealt with in society. None of these things are even talked about. I'm making the point that should your politicians deal with the actual real world things that are affecting you, or shouldn't they? Between the two parties, the only party that is going to ever do anything about those things is supposed to be the left. The left in this particular country is handicapped in the way that they do their politics. They believe that they've gamed the system in a way that they can say, these guys are batshit crazy, vote for us. They failed. That hasn't even worked. Like, the Republicans' plan is slightly idiotic in the sense of, we just tell everybody, we'll give everybody tax cuts, they'll vote for us because they'll love their tax cuts. Democrats never... Look, all I'm saying is, over the long term, over the trend, what do you want to accomplish? And do you believe that continuously rewarding people for not doing what they're supposed to be doing is accomplishing anything? That's what I'm getting at. That's my point. Yeah. Yeah. That's my point. That's my position, Greg. Greg Dixon is the one who sent me the question. Vermont Brett Smith. Bernie knows he compromised his brand by campaigning for Hillary. Maybe he won't do this again. Nah, I don't know. Oh man, the Kamala Harris thing would hurt. I would hope he does not do that. I would hope that if he's going to be some kind of kingmaker, it would be somebody who's, who warrants it. Trudy, Bill Clinton took a Russian speaking job to set Hillary Clinton up. You say you want a revolution. We all want to see your plans. Talking to gun nuts. Yeah, they're terrifying. We need to find terrible t-shirts to switch them all to wear. Terrible t-shirts. Zox Avox. Hey Jamal, I made a bet with you right now. I'll wear a t-shirt if I lose. Bernie supports the Democrats and runs around promoting another terrible candidate against Greens and Independents in 2020. He would probably go against Greens, yes. There's a reason for it, but he would probably go against Greens. Now, the reason he'd go against Greens is because Greens... Here's the thing, man. Nobody... Politics is not about being nice. It's just not. Our society is odd in the way that we organize ourselves because it's purely the sake of competition. Cooperation would yield better results, but whatever. That's not how we do it. We go with this idea of competition under the faint pretend of coordination with one another. Even when you get your jobs, there's this thing of competition. You know, I need this job, I need to get over this particular person, this particular position. Again, under this umbrella of we're working together. Well, all I'm saying is the Green Party has... None of this stuff is given away. It's not about being nice. Green Party needs to get across that Democrats can lose. Period. Nothing takes place without it. And until you do that, you're going to have a difficult time getting them to toe any of your lines. And the sad part is, you are needed in order to get them to toe those lines. That's the sad part. If the Green Party could get its shit together, and at the very least, even if you couldn't necessarily win, if you could get across this idea of being able to make them lose, you're in a much better position. The positions that you're trying to espouse and everything else will get pulled into the Democratic Party because they wouldn't have a choice. They'd ape your positions just to keep you out of the process. Now, aping those positions, if they're not doing those positions, you have a stronger hand in attacking them. But again, you have to be in a position where you can at the very least take a certain percentage of those votes. But it's not going to be given away. It's not going to be given. Question is, how do you do that? And I don't know. I don't know. Cenk Uygur was all filling himself on bashing Orange Hitler. Yeah, Trump is not Hitler. He's a horrible human being, but it's not Hitler. I'm wondering if Bernie did make it to the presidency, would he change back to an independent? Oh, that's interesting. No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. There's no way. Don't get me wrong. The name at that point has become somewhat of a moot point. The man ran his entire time as a socialist. I don't think he would turn to independent. I do think. See, it's funny when you talk about like politicians and stuff like that. They like to think that the political map is a fixed thing. They act like, you know, how politics is the way politics always is, and all that stuff. It can't be further from the truth. If you wake people up, you can pull those people into the political process, and pulling those people into the political process fundamentally changes how things are. So it's not enough for one of the politicians to say, I'm not going to implement XYZ. Those people are going to be taken out of office. You're going to have a president that's every day is going to be out there bashing and naming names, going after one person after the next of members of his own party for not following to his line. And he's going to be putting up people to be primarying one Democrat after the next. And each of those Democrats full well know that they can be primaried. And you got a bunch of rabid progressives chomping at the bit, screaming and yelling and bitching and moaning about one particular person not implementing a plan, a la Cory Booker not going along with the drug program for Bernie Sanders and getting mauled. Cory Booker was like, nope. I've talked to Senator Sanders. We're doing the drug program together. He got mauled. Politics can change, man. That's all I'm saying. I'm not in this cynical vein yet. I need another 10, 15 years to get a little bit more cynical on this one. I've been thinking about the politics isn't nice for a while. Should the Greens and these just a bunch of huge, shouty, sweaty guys and yell at people online? It worked. It worked for Fox. Just allow sweaty people. No, it's not. It's not that. If it was me, if I was a member of the Greens, let's say it was a group of us. Let's say there was a council of Greens being convened in the background, in the shadows. I like this idea of being in the shadows. Let's say you're working in the shadows, and you convene all of the Green Party members all across the United States, and you guys go to a secret island. And on that secret island, you have one topic. How do we get elected? How do we finally take power? How do we get ourselves in a position where we can actually get in the office and get this stuff accomplished? They keep thinking of us as tree huggers. There's more to us than tree hugging. Call yourself the Greens. Now, in other countries, the Greens, that's not necessarily a bad word, but in the United States, it just looks like a tree hugger. If it was me, I would have, this sounds bad, I would have each member of the group tattooed with some little green icon or something like that. And I would have each of those members try to infiltrate the Democratic Party. And I would have them, in one state after the next, push delegates and candidates that are far to the left. And when they get in that office, they would pass regulation in regards to the voting thing, allowing third-party voting. Oh, I can't think of the name of it, but it's essentially the voting thing that would allow, if the first choice is like the last choice gets kicked off, and then there's a secondary choice, ranked choice voting. Meaning, I would try to topple that party apparatus. Your problem is image in the United States, and I don't know how you get over that problem. Not to mention you're also being locked out of the debate stage. If you could hijack the apparatus, what at the same token, all of you still retaining your understanding that you're not what you're in. It's almost like you're moles. You're drilling your way into these organizations in order to take these organizations over. But each of you full well understand that you are not part of that organization. You're purely there for a very specific point. But that's kind of cloak and dagger. And I might watch too many movies. So. Inez, is Bernie Sanders drawing in new voters who have high expectations of political class? Is that a valid reason to expect change? I think he's pulling in new voters. That's true. I think those new voters do expect change. That's true. But I don't think that's bad. You understand, your expectations create your reality, right? Like, to some degree, your expectations create your reality. What do you expect? Meaning, what do you expect your world to look like? It's that type of thing. If those people are coming in and have certain expectations, and those expectations aren't met, those people are going to be pissed, and those people are going to be angry, and I would hope that energy gets used into getting whoever is blocking that energy out of office. That's what I would hope. Now, if you think of this from the Tea Party standpoint, the way they kind of took over the Republican Party, those people were pissed and angry. They got a bunch of other batshit crazy people in office because they were able to topple the Republicans. If you're talking about something like that, I don't see why it's not necessarily doable on the Democratic side. And hopefully these people will be actually sane. And look, they have been radicalizing Democrats, or the base. Like, the people who used to vote Democrat have become fucking rabid. So, it's American politics, man. It's American politics. Othering tactics are a losing proposition. SJWism is over. Bob Ramirez. It doesn't seem to work, does it? It doesn't seem to work. People don't necessarily like to be told what they should say or think. Now, there's ranges to this. I don't like anybody being belligerent or racist. So let's be honest. I mean, we're talking about what's the range of SJW-ish. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, all those things are degrees. It's never okay to cloak and dagger. We should all be doing more cloak and dagger stuff all the time. It's never too cloak and dagger. We should all be doing more cloak and dagger stuff all the time. Video game vision quest. I'm so ninja. Robert Puke Ray. I'm so ninja. Tiptoe. But the problem with the new people Bernie is bringing in, most have already programmed that there is only two parties to choose from. Well, yeah, that's true. No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you. Like, those people look at Sanders and say, okay, I like Sanders, I'd vote for Sanders, and they consider him something distinct. But usually they're programmed to think, yeah, it's only two parties. But the majority of the country is programmed to only think there's two parties. And understand, this programming is not necessarily insane. There's always this idea of the other. Like, you know, it's like, oh man, I'd vote third party if other people voted third party. It's that type of thing. I don't know what the herd is going to do. Now, if the herd tends to do that, fair enough. But I don't know what the herd is going to do, so I'm going to go in and vote Democrat. I'm going to vote the count. That's the fact. That's the biggest hurdle to third-party voting, is that effect right there. Is that effect. The other. I don't know what the other is going to do. Jill Stein might have gotten 20% of the vote if it wasn't for quote-unquote other, this mythical other. This is kind of my point why I said people should vote who they want, who they think was going to represent their interests. I mean, your candidate may lose, fair enough. But Jill Stein could have gotten a huge percentage of the vote. Even, what's his name, the Libertarian candidate. Of people saying, okay, I don't want this. You had a bunch of people who didn't vote for the president at all. Who was like, okay, I'm voting down ticket, but I can't vote for the president. That's just amazing. Yeah, it's a mythical other. We need voters with attached brains. Yeah. The voters are lame. They're programmed that way. I mean, it's not, you can't necessarily blame them. they're everything that they're told, media and everything else, from the time they're kids to the time they're raised, is you have two parties. That's what they're told. That's what they're beat on their heads with. When they're sitting on their mom's knee watching television, they're seeing two parties. When they're 10 years old, they're seeing two parties. When they're 12 years old, 13, 14, 15, 16, when they're seeing Bill Clinton and Al Gore and, George Bush, they're seeing two parties. It's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. Green approaches voters logically. Republicans and Democrats prey on emotions for votes. Red economics. Oh, I love Reaganomics. She's awesome. And I'm saying in this way, this kind of sweet way, if that makes sense. It's this let me make my point. It's not about being nice. It's not about being nice. It's not about being kind. That's not politics. Your job as a politician is to win. It's not about being logical. It's not about applying to reason and everything else. You understand, politics has little to do with reason. When is the last time you saw two politicians get in the well of Congress? One politician comes back and says, you know what, you're absolutely right. You're completely right. I heard your argument, and fuck it, you're right. You're right. I was completely wrong. I am changing my position. This has nothing to do with logic. The position that these guys have are fixed going into it. Thank you for the cash. I now have my position, and I'm going to hold that position. I don't care what information comes out. I am holding this position. I believe in tax cuts in all situations, even in cases that don't need tax cuts. It's nothing to do with being nice. If the Greens' goal is logic, then the Greens' goal is going to lose. They're going to lose. Spectacle matters. Spectacle matters. I know that sounds insane, but spectacle matters. I know sometimes you think just, arguments, like reason-winning arguments. Like we're having an argument and I'm being infinitely reasonable, if whatever that means. And they're like, wow, that guy was being infinitely reasonable. He won that argument. It doesn't work that way, man. The person who's being belligerent may win an argument just because it seems like they're being stronger or more, verbose and everything else. Optics win arguments, not reason. It's true. It's absolutely true. Catherine Horace, when you tell someone they don't have the right to speak because of their sex or skin color or hater, you're a hater, even when that person is from traditionally advantaged groups. Yes, great. Like I'm not in this camp of blocking people's free speech. Free speech is free speech. Now granted, don't get fired at theater and stuff like that, so fair enough. But I am uncomfortable with blocking speech in this way. Like, I'm an African American, and I am acutely aware of the civil rights movement and people saying stuff that the society did not want to hear. And from the perspective of the society, these people are fucking nuts. These people are crazy. They're trying to break up the country. They're communists. They're socialists. They're this and that. No, they just wanted equal rights. And fair enough. Some of the stuff that people are saying are not necessarily going to meet the level of people striving for equal rights. But I'm just making the point that killing one, for some odd degree, kills the other. And the perspective of the power that's in that position, or the perspective of the people in power, are not the people who I want making that decision. I'm sorry, they're not. They're not. This idea of, oh, this guy's a terrorist because this guy's doing something that's antagonistic towards our government. I don't want the government making that choice. Bernie's too nice. Jeremy Corbyn is a badass. Jeremy Corbyn is a badass. I like Jeremy Corbyn. I love him. Trump won and he's out of his mind and stupid as hell too. Yes, he is. I love Jeremy Corbyn, man. Jeremy Corbyn is fucking awesome. Yeah, I love me some Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is awesome. It's funny. I did this video. I was riding to one of the conferences and I just found out Jeremy Corbyn won. I was driving the car, like screaming, Jeremy Corbyn! Jeremy Corbyn! You know, because in Britain, Theresa May called a snap election. They're going into the Brexit negotiations. In fact, I need to see the thing. She just gave a speech to Parliament. But they're having the Brexit negotiations. And she's like, I'm having a snap election. It's like, oh, okay, you're just going to have a random election. Okay, fair enough. It's in the power of the government to do it there, so they have a snap election. The reason she was doing this election because she wanted to destroy labor. This was the war to end labor. We're gonna break the back of labor. It's like Theresa May was gonna be Bane and break labor over her knee like Batman. Now, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. They lost. And when I'm saying lost, they didn't lose power because they were able to form a minority government. But labor gained. Labor gained handsomely. Jeremy Corbyn came out there looking like a rose. He was fucking amazing. Now, when he went in, one of the awesome things to watch in Parliament is, and look, the strategy that they used in Britain was the same strategy they used in the United States. Oh, he's a socialist. He's going to destroy the economy. You need the strong economy. The only way you're going to have social programs is if you privatize a bunch of other stuff and fuck over the people who are in your country. And he's going to fuck the country over because he was going to drive us bankrupt. He's a socialist, etc., etc. That was the argument. To pretend as if this guy shouldn't even be across in the dispatch box for me. To pretend as if he's loony and he's crazy and he's a fringe. That was their strategy. That strategy didn't work. That strategy didn't work at all. The wild part about this is, right after the parliament, the very next parliament, Jeremy Corbyn has like a pep in his step. He's feeling himself. Because ultimately, Conservative government lost a shitload of seats. The Scottish National Party, now I'm sorry, I'm getting into the weeds of British politics, but fuck it, that'd be just a moment. The Scottish National Party was talking so much shit about Jeremy Corbyn. It's like, well, clearly there's no left-leaning party in this country. Labour's a lame duck. Labour can't lead. Labour's blah, blah, blah. And then on the election night, when they failed miserably, the guy who was head of the Scottish National Party lost his seat. That's how bad they failed. And then you go and talk to the politicians. These people were like peacocks before, and they're like, well, I mean, we had a hard time and blah, 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 blah. Jeremy Corbyn wasn't mealy mouth. He wasn't mealy mouth at all. He was out there at labor rallies and all sorts of stuff. I fucking love Jeremy Corbyn. Love him. Absolutely love him. And mind you, he's at war with the Blairites in his own party. In the same way you have like the Burners and the Progressives fighting the Heelbots. You have the same war going over there with the Blairites and the Corbynites. The people who are, you know, this idea of momentum and all this other stuff. These people who want this kind of new labor. Fighting the Blairs. The guys who dragged that country into a war. That guy should be in prison right now. It's amazing. Yeah, I love, what's his name? I like progressive or Bernie-crats or the party. And yes, damn it, no more knows universal education childcare, yes. The British had the advantage of watching Americans' corruption. Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. But they also have 1,000 years of history. Let's be honest. Like, the British government has been there for fucking ever. You're talking about going from the time of kings and queens. There's this awesome documentary. It's long as hell. But it goes over the 1,000 years of British history. It is fascinating to watch. 1,000 years. That's fucking amazing. There's one part of that where Parliament has a war with the king. Like, think about that. Parliament goes to war with the king. And they're fighting with this idea of who's in charge, who's going to be in control. The king loses the war. Loses. Completely loses. And Parliament is like, yeah, we still need a king. I mean, king is appointed by God. We can't get rid of the king. What can you do? The king is going to go back to his task. That's amazing. That's amazing. Your culture is so programmed that Parliament goes to war with the King of England. They beat the King of England, this guy who's supposed to be appointed by God. And they still say, well, of course you need a king. Can't run the country without a king. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. Seems like most Europeans do more with their outrage than we do. Yeah, that's true. They do. They do. Yeah. I mean, France would have shut America. Man, if you told France, the people in France, that they would have had $50,000 of school loans on their head, they would have shut that place down. They would have shut that place down. When my wife and I were in France, they were having marches and protests. So they had like a farm march or something like that, where they have farm animals in the middle of the street to shut down traffic. Yes, they do more with their outrage than we do. They should. They do more with their outrage. Let's see. Trudy, they burn a lot of cars. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Dax Jacobson, my car has been burned 0 times in my life. Well, that's maybe a problem. That's might be the problem, Dax. Pillbox, you should interview Daniel Shanahan The lawyer in Pentagon Papers, Watergate, Iran-Contra lawyer. He's fascinating. That guy would probably not talk to me. I mean, nobody. Trudy, civil disobedience stacks like a Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party didn't have that many people. I know they call it a Boston Tea Party, but it wasn't like that. What is the... Oh, I'm thinking of Boston Massacre. It was like 6 people. They called it a massacre. It was the drama queens. BBC leading the smearing of RT. Yeah, that's a goddamn shame. Jane Sanders was heavy load on students. What a woman. David McCall is always the asshole. He's always the asshole. What do you guys think the 2020 rules of engagement will be? How are legitimate progressives going to be able to call out corporatocrats if their hypocrisy can't be mentioned? I think their hypocrisy should be mentioned. I'm not in this camp of falling in line just to fall in line. Let's fall back on common interests. Fuck that. I don't know what those common interests are. I put my stake in the ground in a certain amount of humanism. And if your stake is not in the ground in the same place, regardless of what your proclamations are, we're not on the same team. That means I am okay with you losing. It's not that I love that the other guys are winning, but I think they're batshit crazy. It's that you have a responsibility that you're not living up to. That's what it is. You're not going to be rewarded just because they're crazy. You're not getting my reward because they're crazy. Smearing of RT. Now look, RT, let's talk about RT for the moment. So RT has its bias. Also, don't get me wrong. Like when RT, I've seen RT do interviews of Slazarov GJ. And as they're interviewing them, they have a conversation. The reporter gets extraordinarily intense on a very specific issue. The issue that she's getting intense on is a very clear position of the Russian government that she's having this conversation with him about. And she is immensely intense about it. And she would not let it go. She was like a dog with a bone. And it becomes this like, okay, you're being heavy-handed. I understand your position, Russia, but you're being heavy-handed. So he has his biases. The stuff that they usually put out is usually this kind of progressive thing. They're further to the left. Now, whether you want to say that they're doing that to rile up controversy, or I don't care. I don't care. Some of the stuff they put out, I like. Some of the stuff they put out, I think is slightly heavy-handed. It just depends on what it is. Everyone has a bias. Understand what their bias is, and you can use their information, because at that point you understand where they're coming from and what they're, the bullshit parts. Corruption must be mentioned. Corporate takeover of education must be mentioned. Yes, agreed. Dax Jacobson, most people are going to vote for the Democrat, and the Republicans will have the paper shredder running 24/7 for anyone who votes while not white. Robert Pouquet Ray, hypocrisy should be on the forefront of debates and interviews. Yes, agreed. Yes, holds an argument. Yes, agreed. The problem is, it's on both sides. That's the problem. If you ever watch British Parliament, one person would say something. The other person would get up and say, well, Labour did blah, blah, blah when Labour was in office. Labour gets up and says, the conservative government is doing blah, blah, blah right now. It's like, where do you go when it's on both sides? Where do you go? Ines, I agree. I just don't understand how blatant corruption isn't viewed as a weakness. I don't either. Like, I don't get that. So the Hill writes this long article, and the main thrust of the article is Hillary Clinton, while she was in the State Department, Bill Clinton was getting money greased in his palms, in which he passed a uranium window. Now, they make the point at the article that the FBI didn't really, this kind of went under the radar, that the Clinton Foundation ended up with over $2 million from this company who had the deal, and Bill Clinton got his palms greased to the tune of $500,000 for a speech. How does that fly? Like, that seems mind-blowing and problematic to me. That somebody who's working in the State Department, her husband is getting a huge amount of money for a deal that she is involved in. That's mind-blowing. Like, if you're going to tell me that Vladimir Putin is the worst goddamn thing on this planet and that we need to spend $1 trillion on our nuclear armaments and all this other stuff, you gave him 20% of our nuclear stores. Was he not a threat when you were giving him 20% of our nuclear stores? I mean, come on. Sometimes the most devastating thing to do to your enemy is tell the truth. Yes, red economics. Do you remember There's a Rachel Maddow clip. It's awesome. It's also Rachel Maddow clip where she's like, they weaponize truth. They weaponize truth. I think something to that. Weaponized truth, or weaponized reality, or something, or weaponized information. But the information was true. I mean, you could transpose information to truth. They weaponized truth. It's amazing. Funny Brazil knew what the women accident question would look like. Donna Brazil is a crook. That woman is a crook. Trudy, or tell us Iran is a serious threat to us as if it's a 51st state. Yeah, I know. It's like they sell out a foreign policy to Israel. It was fucking weird. I was in a bus ride to Nepal. I was going bungee jumping, and on this trip, I was sitting beside two Israelis. Now, the Israeli found me because I was having a conversation with somebody, and I mentioned that I had just came through Palestine in order to get through certain parts. And so this intrigued him. He was like, Palestine? What do you mean by Palestine? What do you mean by Palestine? Where is Palestine? And he's trying to make this point that there's been no deal made. Palestine isn't necessarily officially a thing yet. Which I was like, oh, dude, I'm not having this conversation with you. It's like, this is not a conversation I want to have. And yet, we were sitting together having this conversation. And, you know, he kind of made this point, like, yeah, our military can handle itself. And I said, I would prefer your military to handle itself. During that time, Hillary Clinton had pretty much promised that any threat to Israel is essentially as a threat to the United States would be involved in any conflict. And I was made this point, I don't want my military doing that. I think it's fucking insane to say that the United States military is going to essentially be some kind of arm of the Israeli military. It's insanity. It's insanity. I'm not giving Israel a blank check. That's what it boils down to. They shouldn't get a blank check. This country gets billions of dollars. There's nuclear weapons. It can tend to its own devices. Tend to its own devices. Particularly in the way it's behaving now. It's a right-wing government. Caitlin on H.A. Goodman right now. Sorry, Jamal, I love you, but I don't get to see Caitlin off. Oh, it's okay. And I'm going to end this. It's almost an hour. How did she know ahead of time the woman was and what she'd be wearing? Oh, I see what you mean. You're talking about Donna Brazil. I don't believe a thing that comes out that woman's mouth. She got on Trevor Noah and lied through her teeth for an hour. She was throwing herself at Trevor Noah to obfuscate from him asking her difficult questions. She was coming on all sorts of odd and strange interview. Yeah. So odd and strange interview. So yeah, can't believe they put that woman on that thing. No. I'm gonna close this out, Trudy. Thank you. I appreciate it though. Yeah, I appreciate it. Alright guys, I am going to end this. This has been an hour. I told my wife it was going to be like 30 minutes. I essentially lied. I essentially lied for like 20 minutes, 28 minutes. So. Thanks. AJ will probably plug his book on Amazon and would never let her talk any way. Oh, he only does that for the first 10 minutes. He only does it for the first 10. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys.